you all are enjoying. There are a few people in life who you come across and they make a monumental imprint on your life. And the difference, I want you to know, between connecting with people and then having relationships. Everybody say relationship. Come on, again, because this is about business, right? Everything's about business here. Relationships, say it again. The difference between knowing somebody and also having a relationship with someone is that when you're in relationship with someone, they feel no intimidation to open up a door for you. And that door that they open up for you leads for you to open up doors for other people. And so in curating this, I could not, in executive producing this, I could not close out this day, which is monumental for me as an entrepreneur, for our firm here in the city of Atlanta, without bringing to the stage my mentor, the incredible, the impeccable, the gracious Miss Catherine Bruton, who is Vice President of BMI Creative. She's worked for individuals, anybody you could think of in the industry, from DJ Khaled to Kirk Franklin, on the countryside, Kenny Chesney, anyone in music that you can think of that is someone that's particularly represented by BMI. Not that we don't have any ASCAP people in here, we still love you, but has she not touched? And in addition to her being a Vice President of Music Creative, she also is a CEO of her own production company, Crescent Productions, and she also has a nonprofit organization called Hope for Harvest Youth Center, where she is empowering the future daily from students, from young adults all across Charlotte, North Carolina. Without further ado, I want to bring up my mentor, my friend, my big sister. Let's give a crazy loud Future Fest welcome to Catherine Bruton.
Performance arts organizations in the U.S., we pay public performances to creators. So if I write songs and they are played in any type of public medium, you get paid. So there's really an amazing amount of money that's dispersed. We are almost $1 billion company, and all of that money comes in and it goes back out to the creators. We've become the gateway to the music business. Music companies don't necessarily scout out talent. A lot of times they come to us as heroes, and we're hearing the songs, we're seeing the artist first in a lot of cases.
Artists really are now taking more control in their careers. Instead of them just being an artist and not writing, they're really writing more, they're collabing more. I think music is becoming more of a hybrid. There's not necessarily, it's not so formatted. It's not just urban or pop or rock.
Thank you to BMI. Thank you, Lord. We ask you. Thank you, Catherine, for having the guts to put this family right here back together.
Hollywood Reporter actually just released a street edition for Grammy Week, and they kind of acknowledged what they said is, icons in music, and myself and actually Khaled were featured together as what they call the power team in hip hop. I felt pretty special to have received that honor.
You have a #1 dance song. How does that go? That's pretty amazing.
Probably one of the weirdest things. I mean, to think that at this point in my life, at 62 years old, I can get a #1 dance record. And when we play that song live, people, I don't want to curse, but people lose their, people lose it, they kill it, they start singing the lyrics and another song. So that is all important because, you want to be heard.
Yeah.
If you have a message, you want people to hear your message.
Good evening to everybody. Welcome to BMI's 16th annual Trailblazers of Gospel Music Awards. Advice I would give to women aspiring to get into the music business is be prepared. You have to really be prepared. You have to always present yourself accordingly. And I think you also just have to know that you're going to have to work sometimes twice as hard. But I'm okay with that because what I do know is I'm going to be the first to show up and maybe the last to leave.
I'm laughing at how my hairdo is back. It's still cute. So why this is important to me is, you see all these people of, many, it's from Seal to Cash Money to Luda. What was really clear to me in my early stages of my career is as a Black female, being the first to work at GE, I was accepted into Jack Welch's program. Then my first music job was the Grammys, so I didn't intern. I was very fortunate enough to be recruited to work for the Grammys, and then BMI recruited me from the Grammys, and I've been at BMI now for 20 years. I started when I was 12, so don't do the math. But what I love about this type of setting is possibilities, and that I want y'all to sit on that for a second. A Black woman coming from North Carolina, my mother was a pastor. I never had aspirations to do music, but what I knew is I was special. Not special because of anything physical, but special in the sense that there was a different expectation for me other than outside of my siblings. My siblings were cool, but my mom had a different mantle for me. And in that, I wasn't the best cook. I didn't, I was a gymnast and a cheerleader, and I did all the right things. And then when it was time to graduate, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I got recruited to work for GE. So what I would say to you, and I'm assuming most of you are high school, and there are obviously some adults in the room, is be intentional early. Don't put pressure on yourself to navigate a path that what your parents think you should do. My mom was a pastor. I had no desire to be a pastor. But what I also didn't realize is in her ministry, she was a real estate developer. She was a woman who built a community. She did so many things under the guise of a pastor that in her death I learned, I was like, wow, my mom was really a rock star. So we have to not look at what we think they're doing, but understand the nuances and the things that they're doing. And I was talking to this young lady, and she was saying she was in production at New Birth, and I didn't know I would be producing and hosting an award show. I was never like, I'm gonna produce a show, I'm gonna work in music, I'm gonna meet all these famous people. None of that was really my vocal desire, but God had already really manifested all these things and gifts in me that I was able to use to do all these wonderful things that I've done. But in all these wonderful things I did, the pastor, that the mom and the knowledge and the things that my mom as a pastor gave me was giving back. It was not enough for me to be successful, but if I could take the gifts and the resources that God had given me, it was incumbent upon me to put seeds in the ground to pour in somebody like Robert, or to pour into the thousands of kids that we've served at Hope for Harvest. So there wasn't much about Hope for Harvest, but what is my most impactful job and role as a woman now is that I've helped thousands and thousands of kids who did not see possibilities. You guys are sitting here all looking very, very proper, and certainly probably some of the future leaders of the world, but what we have to also do is make sure that even in this exterior that we're listening to you. Parents sometimes don't listen. I don't want to be that person. When I encounter young people, I meet them where they are. Yes, I've done all of this, but at the end of the day, my journey is no different. I had to figure it out. So, music producer, host, philanthropist, really take great pride in. I'm going to bring Yellow up in a second. I've discovered Drake, y'all saw that picture of Drake. Drake had just released his mixtape. Drake was not the Drake that he is. He was always gifted, but he became a megastar. I saw it. Bidding war out the world. We brought him to Atlanta. I signed Drake on a handshake, and the rest is history. I can tell that story dozens and dozens of times. But do I hang my hat on what I did 10, 15 years ago? No. What am I doing today to make an impact? I'm here. Those are the things that we have to always be cognizant of. People who are looking at, well, yesterday or last month, don't matter. Yes, that's building you for your future, but keep your eyes on the prize of what's happening next. What are your thoughts about what are we doing when I graduate? College ain't for everybody. So I don't ever put the pressure of saying, well, you gotta go to college. No, that ain't for everybody. But you have to find what you're passionate about. And passion will always lead you to the check. Promise you. 20 years a year. I don't even know when I get paid. And I get paid a lot of money. I look at my bank account, oh, thank you, Jesus. And then I tithe. Another check. Thank you, Jesus. Why? Because again, I understand that if I'm doing it for the money, it's never going to make sense. There's always going to come, it's going to come with trouble. So if I release myself from the financial benefit of the great work I do, then the great work and the money becomes even bigger because I've not done it for the wrong reason. So back to Yellow. Met this kid. Yes.
No, but she's also a PK, she told you. So she drops these good moments and then she wants to move past them. And I want to get to Yellow, but I want to, just for one moment, Catherine, because this group has been in the space where they've been in, future entrepreneurship, what it looks like. They've been in health and wellness. And so creatively, you didn't start out in a creative pathway, but creativity has been really your launch for success so far. So can you talk about how do you tap into unlikely territory? Was there something that, you feel like people should prepare themselves or be open to, or how do you navigate that,
I work for the Grammys, so when I left GE, the Grammys was looking at opening the Recording Academy office, a chapter here. And so I was like, oh, I don't know music, I don't know, but I said, okay, I accept. So I took the job, and what I remember early is I was so fascinated with behind the scenes. So we would have access to everything, rehearsals, script writing, production, and I would be in these meetings, but then I'd wander off and I'd be behind stage looking at what was happening. And what I didn't realize at that time was that was God really putting these seeds in in me that would now manifest to what I'm doing now. So I was very fortunate to be a part and be able to see some of the biggest stages in the world. And that's the Grammys. There's no bigger show in the world than that. Not again knowing the impact it would have on me as now a producer and a host, and I can write scripts and book shows. I can do it all. All of that was really for me, not just being there like, oh, I'm gonna watch the show, looking at the things and picking apart things. And I was like, oh, why did they do that? They should have lights behind them, not in front. So things that to most people are like, what are you talking about? But that became a thing that was really what I ultimately now do in producing and hosting shows, which I just hosted last Wednesday in Miami. We honored Busta Rhymes, Pharrell.
Which was epic.
Which was epic. Him
saw it on the gram. It was epic.
Khaled, the chef. When I say I'm tapped out, but I would never have missed this for no money in the world. So
I appreciate it. But again, this goes back to, wow, it's not even about us, but it's the reflection that I want you all to really grasp is the power of relationship. And in moments where you can't go, sometimes your relationship will go further, And can you spend a little time, because I know intimately your story of just your journey, it's really been based on you having relationships. I mean, I've traveled and been in, so briefly so you can understand the connection, I graduated from Berklee College of Music, and literally my first position, I went from eating ramen noodles and pizza on my dorm room floor to becoming one of Catherine's executives at BMI. And, openly, I will say there probably was a lot of things I knew, but for everything I knew, there probably was maybe 3 or 4 things that I didn't know. And what she did was allow for me to be in the space and said, I see something bigger in you than you see in yourself. I see that you could be an executive at 21. So while my friend's first job out of college was working at Starbucks or bussing tables, Berklee College of Music is a creative arts school, my first job was being an executive at BMI. Changed the trajectory of my life because of what she saw inside of me. So I want you, and I've been in space, I say that to say, I want to talk about the power of relationships because this is someone literally who could be sitting at a table and DJ Khaled call like it's nothing.
they don't FaceTime.
They FaceTime her like it's nothing.
Where
oh,
is
Catherine, what's up? Like this is nothing. They call her like it's nothing. Then she'll get off the phone and then Kirk Franklin will call. Then she'll get off the phone and then someone in country talking about we need to program this award show. I'm painting this picture for you because it's less even about who Catherine is and more about how she knows how to navigate these spaces. So before we bring up Yellow, can that be kind of the toss to the future? How do you navigate these spaces, Catherine?
I don't take for granted the rooms and the places God has put me in. And I think so much of what has happened for me because God knew He could trust me to be in these rooms. And I want you to ponder on that. Sometimes people have agendas going into spaces. Pharrell has not been on a stage performing in 3.5 years. Pharrell and I connected. He's again, we grew up in the business together. So Pharrell's one of my really dear friends. And so I said, Pharrell, I want to honor Buster, but I need you. He's like, well, I haven't been on the stage. I don't want to really do music like that. I'm producing again. He said, but if you come to Miami, we had locked in to be in Atlanta to do the show. He said, but if you come to Miami, I'm there. And I changed the venue, and we went to Miami and lived, and Pharrell passed the Cavassier song with Busta Rhymes. So because these relationships have been tried and true beyond music, it really has been, I have been the sister, friend, girl, like the chick who didn't get into music to be like, where there's blurred lines. I was very clear. I'm not a groupie. I can go to Pharrell's house. I can be in St. Thomas with Kenny Chesney, who owns half the alley, who's like my brother. Khaled and his family are like my family. So I'm not saying all that to say that I'm so special. I just think that God knew that He put me in these rooms because He could trust me to be in this room. So there's those people, and then there's Yellow Pain. So during the election, during that Black Lives Matters movement, there was so much dissension. And what I will say before I go back to him is, in the movement, the people I don't believe, and I say this and I might get in trouble for this, because there's a movement doesn't mean you're called to carry the task out. And let me explain what I mean by this. The movement was about protesting. But beyond protest, what really happened for our community? And as a Black woman, I'm not saying the work wasn't good work, but when there's a when there's a selfish purpose tied to the gain, then you get exposed every time. I don't have mud on my name because you're not going to be able to lure me with money or gifts. I'm going to stand on just doing the work, and the money's going to come. So when that happened, I remember seeing this song called My Book Don't Count, and I was like, this kid is really brilliant from Dayton, Ohio, where he says nothing good comes from it, but he is one of those extraordinary human beings I know. So this song happened, and I was like to my guys, of course, I like this kid. We ended up meeting with him. I'm like, we need another wave. He was on every outlet in the world, and you'll see a little bit of that. I said, let's shoot a remix. We put 7 on it, so the song went viral a second time. But the content was not necessarily sexy. It was just empowering us as a community to understand voting. You're not there yet, or some of you are, but we have to now know that protest is not enough. What happens after you protest? People tore people's scrap. They tore this again. Is that right? No. Well, we're going to do this in protest. That's not protesting. So I work with Yellow really closely. He's one of the most hardworking, committed human beings, smarter than most fifth graders I know. I mean, most adults I know is smarter than fifth graders, but he's brilliant, shoots his content, writes script. He's now doing a documentary on, again, dispelling the voting process. We all think it's about the president. It really ain't, and you'll see that. So let's play his video. First of all, I want everybody to get up. This kid is the future, I promise you. Please welcome to the stage. You know who Yellow is. Yellow Pain! I know the world won't give me nothing, so I gotta take it. And I know it's a way we can win, how will nobody say it. He just did with that, like, produced, wrote the treatment for the video, starred in the video. How did this whole notion of you writing a song about probably the most unsexy thing for anything you can do, maybe other than like, I don't know, Cheetos, I don't know. how did this all come about with My Book Don't Count?
So the crazy thing is, yo, is my
Oh, there.
Yo. All right. So, can I bring the energy up real quick? Let me hear you say yellow. Yellow. Let me hear you say yellow. Yellow. I just had to bring the energy up there. But yeah. So my cousin Desiree, she was running for Congress at the time, and she was like, "Cuz, I want you to make a song about voting." I'm like. I ain't really into that, cuz, you know what I'm saying? No disrespect, you know what I'm saying? I love you, but that's not, you know what I'm saying? That's not my thing. I don't rap about that type of stuff. And she was like, well, why don't you feel like your vote count, man? You know, I was honest. You know, I was like, listen, 2012, I went and voted for Obama. I was so happy, like, we got a black woman in office. Like, it was like so much anticipation behind it, like, you know, the world was about to change. And when I voted for him, then a couple years passed, and I didn't see no changes in my life, you know what I mean? I was still sleeping on the floor. I didn't see no changes in my community. I was like, you know, I voted for Obama and nothing changed. And she's like, okay, so you tell me what's some things you would like to see change. And I started to list them. I'm talking about, you know, people going to prison for long periods of time off of like small marijuana charges and, you know, welfare being, you know, not having enough money in the community and the roads and like the potholes in the street is so bad in the city that I'm from. And she was like, well, you know, it's an infrastructure bill or some transportation bill that can be passed that can get the construction expedited. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, these people that you are supposed to vote for are in your community. And I didn't know that. And I felt so obligated to make the song at that point. I had to wake up and be like, wait, you need to tell me that all of these problems that we have in the community go back to who's in office, who the elected officials are in our community, and I got a passion for it, you know. It wasn't necessarily the coolest song to do, you know what I mean? I didn't think at that time that it was going to change my life, you know what I'm saying? It was something that was on my heart, and I had to do it for my community. So, you know, sometimes it's not the sexy thing, you know what I mean? But one thing my mom always told me was dare to be different, and that's what I did.
So no, give it up, that's good. That's good. So at what point after the song was released the first time that you realized it was going viral? And what call did you get? You were like,
I say this, it started to get views, like a lot of views, but I was kind of used to views, you know what I mean? Like it was like 1 million views on Facebook, but then it just started to be this like ripple effect. So it was like, so what happened first was like I think Chelsea Clinton.
At the table that Clinton, Chelsea. Okay. So that was your first daughter. Yes, former vice president.
Yeah, exactly. So she retweeted it on Twitter. And then, you know, from there, it just started a ripple effect. You know, so many people was tweeting.
tell us some more.
From the Shade Room, Viola Davis, LeBron James, man, the list goes on and on.
So being smart is cool, I'm telling y'all.
I was blessed enough to do an interview with Oprah, Steve Harvey. I was on MSNBC, CNN, you know, all type of blessings.
So in that thought process, so tell me, what do you think that goes through your head? Because remember, this is Future Fest, right? So how was that literally maybe dreaming? And I've seen stuff on your social about manifestation and you know, writing about performing with Manny Fresh and then you perform with Manny Fresh. You know, so how important, so we can inspire maybe Dream Rooms here, is it to see your future even before you're standing in your future?
Yeah, it's extremely important to see your future before. Like I said, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and I don't know if y'all from Atlanta or not, but I'm not gonna say it's easy to get inspired, but I will say, you know, from being out here, I can imagine, you know, like I see Lamborghinis and Bentleys and you know, every hood is like, oh, you know, such and such grew up from there. They got this much money and such and such. Like where I'm from, it was none of that. You know, the nicest car you might see is probably like a Chrysler 300. So I really had to.
Don't hate on the Chryslers, bro. Don't hate on the Chryslers.
So I really had to internalize. I really had to pray a lot, and I had to almost do a lot of things on my own. Like I shot my own music videos. You know, I was doing my own graphics. I was recording myself in my own little homemade studio. I was producing my own beats. I was doing everything I could. And sometimes you kind of gotta be the team before you actually get a team. You know, so it was that type of thing. Just, you know, I just had hope, and it paid off.
So what I also really so appreciate about him, he's never not working. And what I mean by that is any given day he's creating, he's have a children's book, right? He also shot a documentary we'll give you a little bit about, at the end we'll show a little bit of that. But I always like to open it up because we've talked a lot. I want to really hear from you. If you have questions, raise your hand. I'll come down. But what I want you, and I'll just table this for women, the young women in the room. Social media has glamorized being, and I'll say it, just dumb and over-sexualized. And what I can tell you is that as an employer, I hire people. And if you're on there doing the booty drop, I'm next. So understand that what you consider entertainment and fit in is gonna cost you because there's employers like me who hold women to a different standard. You will never see me on social media. I told you I got one box that my clothes are on. The beach pictures are for the beach. I'm not walking around with beach clothes or drawers in my house for the public. So don't feel pressure to fit in and do things that are uncharacteristic because it's fake news. These girls are awful looking in person. Catherine said it. I see them all.
But I think also what's so no, I agree with